Hi, how are you? So nice to meet you.
Hey Leslie, how you
Hi.
doing?
Good. First of all, I love the show. I binge
Good.
watched. Um, so the story to me is just so shocking. What was it diving into this topic that really surprised you? Because I was surprised by so many facts of how easily this happened.
Yeah. What surprised me the most was everything. Everything. I
Yeah.
mean, the word shocking is exactly how I felt when I first started researching it. The fact that one company that was micromanaged by one family, and even by the way, not even the whole family,
Yeah.
it's kind of a small group of the family that actually worked there. The rest just took the money. That they were able to lie, manipulate, deceive to such a profound pathological extent. It's almost demented, and how that line never stopped. To this very day,
Yeah.
to this very day, the line has never stopped. So it's an appalling story. But then the story gets more profound than just a criminal company, because it goes to the halls of the Justice Department and the FDA, into Congress, and we see how they're able to use their money to sort of bend the government to their will, so that the oversight that is supposed to be there to protect us from people like this, in fact, becomes witting, unwitting legal co-conspirators with them, and helps them instead of blocking them, helps them along the way. And not everyone did, but it seemed that key people at the top, over and over and over again, would look the other way, side with Purdue, and in several cases go to work for Purdue. They would leave the government and they would go to work for Purdue Pharma. So one person summed it up perfectly. Said they're buying off everyone that's supposed to be regulating them.
Yeah, it was amazing how easy they manipulated the system from doctors who would have never, prescribed those kind of medications to, months later they were just handing them out to everyone. It was crazy how easily it seemed to happen.
Yeah, well, it was a real long-term manipulation. I mean, I almost call it a long con, right? Where there was this entire movement by pain societies to redefine the nature of pain, and that opioids have been unfairly stigmatized. And we need to rethink the very nature of opioid use. And lo and behold, those pain societies that promoted that were fully or partially funded by Purdue Pharma. So it starts with these independent pain societies that start to influence the doctors with articles written in totally respectable publications like the New England Journal of Medicine, Time Magazine, Scientific America, right? And then the ultimate tool for Purdue Pharma was the FDA label that said this drug was less addictive than other opioids. And then, of course, the guy who approved the label at the FDA 18 months later takes a job with Purdue Pharma. But there was, that label was the FDA says this is safer. And the effect that had on doctors was huge.
Yeah.
Next up, we'll go to Stephanie from RCR. Stephanie, you're
Nope,
still on mute.
Stephanie, we can't hear
I
you.
was muted. Yeah.
There you are. How you doing, Stephanie?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good.
Cool. First of all, I love your talent, not only as an actor and storyteller, but I, did my research on you. And I also like that you mentioned in the past that when people say write what you know, you believe it should be more, if you're a professional writer, write what you're passionate about. So what drew you to this? I mean, to really make you dive in and write this series?
Well, partly I say write what you're passionate about instead of write what you know is I don't know anything. I'm a blank slate here. Like, what am I going to write about? Being an actor and auditioning for projects in my 20s? I mean, that was literally my entire life experience from age 18. What should I write about? Doing a play in Nashville, Tennessee. Although that's cool too. Don't get me wrong. I had a great experience doing that show. But in this case, I often get inspired by stories that anger me and outrage me. And my anger fuels sometimes my artistic drive of something just enrages me. And then I want to write something about it. And I want to be able to put something in mainstream entertainment, to dramatize, shine a light, expose, create a discussion around this subject. And there's something about it too. I'm very kind of I don't know, I'm very kind of normal. I wear normal clothes. I'm not cool. I don't have tattoos, but I feel like when I do this, when I get major corporations to make pieces of material like Dopesick or like The Butler or like Recount or Game Change, it feels really punk to me. It's like this is my version of punk rock. Is being able to take, a multinational corporation and have them finance some piece of muckraking, to have them finance a discussion of a pharma company out of control or institutional racism, or how our electoral process is turning into reality shows. So that's definitely what motivates me and what drives me and what excites me. And by the way, I don't always do it. I mean, sometimes there's many things I've written that haven't been made. Usually those projects are, I did them for the money and they're not so good, or there's nothing special about them. And so it's over the years, I've decided, instead of just trying to chase a buck, why don't I stay focused on these things that I'm passionate about and excited about? And then lo and behold, these are the kinds of projects that people say, oh, can't get made. And then I don't know, I seem to be able to get them made. So I think maybe that's not true. And there's maybe not enough people that are pursuing this kind of material.
So why do you? Oh, sorry.
Oh, we're actually we got to keep moving on. I'll come back if we have time for additional questions.
Okay.
Next up, we're going to go to the Hollywood Times with Valerie. Just want to make sure everyone has a chance to ask at least one.
Thank you, Molly. Hi, Danny.
Hi.
As we all know, the United States has been dealing with this opioid epidemic for several decades. Can you talk about why now is a good time to shed light on this crisis? And if there is time, I do have a follow-up.
I think there's never a bad time to shed light on this crisis, to show exactly how this happened, because the way it happened and the way that the government, became witting, unwitting, legal co-conspirators in this process is a profound tale of American capitalism and how it can influence and bend the government to somewhat corrupt institutions that are supposed to be protecting us. So to me, there was never, it was this sort of a timeless story. At the same time, the timing of this has been unbelievable because it never ends, right? I mean, the Purdue bankruptcy, which may be kind of the end of the story of the Sacklers getting away with it. This is all happening now in real time in the last few weeks. It's unbelievable how timely this story ended up being. So to me, this was a timeless story, and then we were, sadly fortunate to actually have it come out at the right time.
Thank you.
Okay, we will come back for follow-ups if we have time, but next we'll go to Joy at Rich Girl.
Nope, Joy, you're muted.
Joy, you're on mute.
Can you hear me? Okay. This show made me do some extra research, which I had no idea there was so many layers to this. And when you were doing this project and writing all the things you were doing, where did you feel that the most broken of the system happened? Was it from the pain management side or the U.S. healthcare system making all these regulatory rules? Can you share a little bit about that with me?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a complicated question. I think ultimately where it was most broken was in the FDA. And the FDA, allowing this to happen, for years. No matter what information came in, the DEA had an active investigation, and they were trying to get the FDA to temper prescribing, to rein in Purdue Pharma, and the FDA just always, almost always, there's a few instances and one major incident in which they didn't side with Purdue, but for the most part, they were on Purdue's side. And partly that comes from the medical review officer that approved the OxyContin label that sparked the whole crisis. 18 months later, he goes to work for Purdue. So the biggest tool Purdue ever had to sell OxyContin, the FDA label, the guy that approved it, and by the way, may have even written it for them, he ends up going to work for Purdue. And it's something like that. Not only does it seem as if it's just overt corruption, but it sends a message to everyone else at the FDA that there could be a job for you at Purdue when you get out of here. There could be some board of directors that you could end up on that could be really beneficial to your career. And so it's not just that individual who some have argued sold out the health of the nation for his $400,000 a year job, right? And so, because in the case of Purdue, they weren't broken. They're just criminals. They're just liars and they're criminals. Okay. And it goes back to Arthur Sackler in the 50s and the 60s. He created all these deceitful techniques of marketing and selling drugs and, creating a pain society that puts out a study that you plant with a doctor that's on your payroll, who writes a story that you put it in a magazine that you have connections with, or in some case partially owned. Right. So it's like he created the con job of this. And what is, his heirs, his nephew and nieces ended up doing was just taking his playbook and then putting that playbook, so I would say on steroids, but in some cases it was just the playbook, it was literally just the Arthur Sackler playbook. So they're criminals, that company. But where it takes it to a whole other level of a disturbing nature is how many people ended up leaving their government jobs and going to work for Purdue Pharma. How, at the end of this case, these prosecutors put this terrific, compelling case together that you'll see over the course of the show. And then something happens right at the end game that makes them not being able to go as far as they wanted to go. And had they gone as far as they want to go, it actually could have ended things. That DEA agent, she puts a great case together and she's stifled by an element within the US government. Right. So how does this keep happening over and over again? And that's the broken, disturbing part of it. I mean, it's all disturbing, obviously, but that's where it goes to, sort of the dark side of American capitalism.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Sure.
Okay, we'll go back to Stephanie for the RCR because I know I cut you off first.
Yeah,
And then
no
we'll
problem.
probably be running a little bit low on time, but we're going to try to sneak one more in after that.
Okay. So, Danny, what do you think is going to be the reception of this series? I know personally, a friend of mine, his two sons have overdosed numerous times at his house.
Wow.
And he's lost his whole life savings, everything he's worked for to take care of his kids. And this time release formula stays in your body forever. From what he's been telling me, they can't get clean, even though they've been in rehab numerous times. So for the folks that are going to watch this, what hope do we have that we're not going to have this kind of con game happen again from, our government?
Yeah, it's so interesting you bring that up because we do a rehab storyline. And it's in the next episode. If you've got episodes 1 through 5, the rehab storyline is episode 6. And what you're talking about is exactly what we dramatize, people coming back over and over and over again, because traditional rehab doesn't seem to work on opioid abuse disorder. It's a very unique addiction because it changes your brain chemistry. And it damages your frontal lobe, and that frontal lobe can take up to 2 years to heal. But it can't heal unless you're clean. Well, how can you stay clean if you have this damaged frontal lobe? So it's this cycle that seems impossible to break. But what we portray in the show in the last 2 episodes is different therapies and medicines, medical assisted treatment, evidence-based treatment, as some people refer to it, that have been shown to work. And in fact, they work so effectively that Purdue Pharma was thinking about going into business, selling these drugs. That's how effective they were. Like, we will addict you, and then we will sell you the medication to get you through your addiction. And some of these medicines are highly stigmatized, and people think, oh, you're just trading one drug for another. I disagree. I think the facts have borne out that it's actually a medicine that people can take. Some people, unfortunately, have to take it the rest of their lives, but taking a daily pill the rest of your life to treat your opioid abuse disorder is so much better than being a heroin addict living under a bridge, right? Stealing everything you can from your parents and your family. It's actually, you can actually live a normal life on these drugs. Now, please, if I hope people go to see a doctor before they just watch the show and then say, "Oh, I'm going to do what these characters in the show do." But we are gonna shine a light on these medications, and I think it could be the greatest thing that the show does is show a path forward, destigmatize treatments that are stigmatized, not by everyone, certainly, but and maybe even get the U.S. government more involved in getting people access to these drugs that could really help them have normal lives. And by the way, not everyone has to stay on them the rest of their lives. Some people are able to wean themselves off. It just, obviously depends on the individual.
Right.